Welcome to The Explainer. So, if we were going to shoot a documentary video covering the entire span of human history, the very first opening shot wouldn't be a wheel or a spear. It'd actually be a thick cloud of smoke. Today, we're diving into the mind-bending history of humanity's relationship with smoke. And I don't mean modern cigarettes or that guy vaping outside your office building. We're tracking down the exact moment a human being first intentionally inhaled something burning, and finding out why that's literally one of the oldest habits our species has ever had. I want you to play a cinematic documentary video in your mind's eye for a second. Just imagine the scene. It's totally quiet. You're an ancient ancestor staring blankly into a fire. A gust of wind blows a psychoactive cloud of smoke right into your face. You inhale, and suddenly it hits you. You have this exact world-changing thought. Wait, what if I did that on purpose? That single, complete accident, that is the spark we are exploring today. To really wrap our heads around this, we got to start with the original, inescapable air quality situation of our ancestors, the prehistoric campfire. Picture 50,000 BC. There are no screens, no cell phones, no dreading checking your inbox. It's just you, the flames, and this thick, choking campfire smoke curling straight into your face. Every single human and pre-human ancestor who sat near a fire breathed smoke every single day. It was absolutely unavoidable, just a non-negotiable part of staying alive. And the timeline here is wild. Roughly 1 million years ago, our earlier cousin, Homo erectus, started using controlled fire in places like Wonderwork Cave down in South Africa. They'd huddle up in the dark to cook and stay warm, and they breathed in all that smoke. But here is the secret. Some of that smoke wasn't just burning wood. When you burn certain wild plants, you unleash a whole cocktail of psychoactive chemicals. So, some of our ancient ancestors were totally accidentally getting high, and they had absolutely zero clue why they suddenly felt so incredible. And why did it feel so good? Well, it all comes down to the endocannabinoid system. Basically, the human brain has this built-in biological network of receptors that perfectly locks in with these psychoactive smoke compounds. These receptors are in charge of regulating your mood, your memory, your appetite, so when that first accidental hit of psychoactive plant smoke drifted over the fire, the brain wasn't freaking out or confused. It was basically going, "Oh, hey, I've been waiting for you." It was just a phenomenally pleasant accident that our biology was hardwired to receive.
Let's map out this massive timeline. We start 1 million years ago with that controlled fire. Fast forward, and 12,000 years ago, archaeologists are finding wild tobacco seeds deliberately stashed in a Utah hearth. Jump ahead to 2,500 years ago, and high-THC cannabis is being burned in ritual burials over in the Pamir Mountains. And then, boom, 1492, Columbus runs into tobacco. But, and this is a big but, keep in mind that organic stuff like leaves, wood, and seeds decays super fast in the earth. A leather pouch of herbs is going to dissolve thousands of years before an archaeologist ever shows up with a trowel. So the absence of older evidence definitely does not mean evidence of absence.
But when we do actually find physical evidence, it's incredibly validating. Take the 5th century BC. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus watched Scythian nomads taking these intense vapor baths, noting that they were literally howling with pleasure. They were tossing hemp seeds onto glowing hot stones inside enclosed tents. Now, for centuries, historians assumed he was just exaggerating. But modern archaeology actually dug up Scythian burial mounds and found the exact bronze braziers and hemp residue he wrote about. The physical evidence completely backed up those ancient observations. Which brings us to the intoxication hypothesis. This was proposed by UCLA psychopharmacologist Ronald Siegel. He argues that the pursuit of altered consciousness is actually a core biological drive, sitting right up there alongside hunger, thirst, and sex. Just think about the magnitude of that for a second. It means our human drive to alter our minds isn't some modern cultural quirk or a teenage rebellion. It's practically built right into our biological source code. And hey, if you're doubting that this drive is biological, let's talk about Siberian reindeer. They literally recycle psychoactive mushrooms through their urine. Yeah, you heard me right. Reindeer eat the mushrooms, and then other reindeer drink that urine to get the psychoactive effects. Nature is wild. It's not just humans. Animals actively seek this out too, proving that our ancient ancestors' lethal trial-and-error discovery process was part of a much larger, bizarre natural phenomenon. They learned through intense, lived, high-stakes experience.
All right, moving on to Section 2, Smoke as Infrastructure, Ancient Medicine, and Social Glue.
Across the ancient world, inhaling smoke wasn't just some casual recreational habit. It was a targeted, serious medical delivery system. Back in ancient Egypt around 1550 BC, the Ebers Papyrus prescribed inhaling henbane smoke for throat and lung issues. Over in Greece, Hippocrates, the literal father of modern medicine, he was using herbal fumigation. And in India, over 3 millennia ago, they utilized complex medicinal inhalation. It actually worked just enough times, delivering active pharmacological compounds straight to the lungs to become a recognized standard treatment across vastly different global cultures. Let's zoom in on that Indian practice for a second. It's called Dhumapana. It literally translates to smoked drinking, and it involved inhaling very specific medicinal herbs through pipes. This wasn't some improvised, casual thing. Dhumapana was a highly sophisticated medical system with centuries of strict protocol behind it. We're talking specific plants and exact preparations designed for specific ailments.
But it wasn't just physical medicine, right? There was also social survival. Shared altered states basically acted as an early form of social technology. Remember, humans are deeply, fundamentally social animals. Surviving a terrifying prehistoric environment required intense trust and coordination. So sitting together in a closed space, participating in a smoke circle, literally synchronized the group's neural activity. It forged this deep trust and the survival-critical group cohesion needed to face a hostile world. It was quite literally essential infrastructure.
Which leads us to Section 3, the chasm from sacred ritual to mass market. Let's focus in on tobacco specifically. For thousands of years in the ancient Americas, tobacco was considered a sacred messenger to the divine, not an everyday habit. It's a plant native only to the Americas, and indigenous cultures treated it with the utmost reverence. It was used in intense healing rituals, for binding tribal agreements, and for communicating directly with the spirit world. You definitely weren't chain smoking it while waiting for the bus. You used the smoke as a living carrier for prayers.
And then, 1492 happens. Christopher Columbus arrives and observes men and women walking around with small glowing sticks, inhaling the smoke and letting it back out. When Columbus and his European explorers first saw this, they were totally baffled. But as we've seen, humanity's drive for altered states is incredibly strong, and within weeks, his crew was trying it themselves. The historical genie was officially out of the bottle.
What follows is a rapid historical disaster. We see a complete European tobacco takeover. By the 1600s, tobacco is suddenly a global trade obsession. The 1700s roll around, and snuff becomes the hot new aristocratic fashion across Europe. The 1800s bring massive cigar popularity. And then by the 1900s, we get the invention of the cheap industrial cigarette. In a flash, this deeply cultural 10,000-year-old indigenous practice was hijacked by European industrialists and transformed into a fast, highly addictive global mass-market obsession. The horrific contrast of that transition is just staggering. On one side, you have the shaman in 500 BC. The practice is sacred, highly ritualized, and used for communal bonding and healing. Then on the flip side, you have the tobacco executive in the 1960s. The plant is engineered for rapid addiction, it's financially extractive, aggressively marketed to youth, and the industry is actively suppressing cancer data. Both figures use the exact same plant, but their intentions and their impact on humanity could not possibly be further apart. So what is the grand takeaway here? The human desire to alter consciousness through smoke predates agriculture. It predates pottery. It predates literally every civilization you ever learned about in school. Ultimately, the drive to inhale smoke is one of the oldest unbroken threads of human behavior. It connects us back to the very moment we became human, looked at a burning plant, and made the massive cognitive leap to recreate a feeling. So the next time you smell wood smoke on a crisp, cold night, will you realize you're actually participating in a 100,000-year-old unbroken human thread? Take a second to ask yourself just how closely you are mimicking the absolute oldest traditions of our entire species. It's a pretty powerful connection to our deep past. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this changes how you view the history of humanity. See you next time.